Thank you very much. And I'm really sorry for the confusion. It was actually to be attended by Somesh, but somehow I had to step in because of some other commitment that he had, which were unplanned. So I'll like to thank GEEF for inviting us for this opening remark, and also thanks to Dr. Bibek Bandyopadhyay and Dr. Yadav for the enriching context that they have given. I'll quickly try to summarize what they have given, put it into a few slides. Some of them may overlap with what we heard from Dr. Yadav, but as is the agenda for today, the notes that we are speaking are more to set the context and the tone for the subsequent deliberations that we are going to have through the various panels. So, what we heard is something which I'm showing here. On the left-hand side, if you'll see, it's more how we are globally. And from 2019 to 2025, the renewable story is growing everywhere. What is a little important to understand is that solar, whether it is decentralized or whether it is utility scale, has started taking the center stage and become a synonym when you talk about renewable. Wind is not so close second, but yes, solar and wind are making the most when we talk about renewable. Now, this is a good thing, but at the same time, we all know that if you don't diversify, even when you talk about clean energy, it can be a problem, because solar, as you said, is intermittent, wind is also intermittent. You need to find other ways. And recently I've been interacting with the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and I see that India is trying to do that. Ministry of Earth Sciences is trying to see how the ocean energy or the tidal energy can be used to produce clean energy and get integrated with the normal ways. In fact, they are trying to test some pilots where a tidal energy can be integrated with floating solar to see what best and longer hours of clean energy can be produced. But the scenario still says that it's majorly solar, followed by wind. In India, if you see, in terms of the mix, it's almost similar. But one major thing which again we see is that when we talk about renewable or clean energy, the concentration in some of the states is very high. Other states are trying to catch up, but the gap is still there. So when you talk about the country, the major focus going forward is how to make sure that every state in the country is able to tap whatever potential they have for various sources of renewable. And I believe a lot of states have already started coming up with their integrated RE policy. States have, we work with a number of them. I mean, I am working down south, starting from Kerala, which is trying to develop one of the first green hydrogen valley and then in Tamil Nadu, where we have created the first ever state-owned green company, TN Green Company, to undertake renewable things, and again with a number of other states. So the intention is that every state starts running and getting into the same race to make sure that renewable becomes more democratized in the country. Some of the challenges and bottlenecks, I know the slide titles are similar to what Dr. Yadav said, but the intermittency is a major problem, and this is what we have seen, that in the country this has been considered as a challenge, and lot of round-the-clock bids, integrated bids with storage have started coming in. But yes, this is a major thing. The good thing is that as we have seen in MP, and we are going to see in other states, that the bids for storage that are coming, the peak time during the day when solar is high and the generation is higher than the demand, that electricity is being offered free now for storage charging. In the night, yes, there is a price to charge that, but that is a good model to promote a lot of storage in the country. And I'm pretty sure in the next 4 to 5 years, we are going to see a lot of solar integrated renewable operating in the country. That would give us a lot of relief from this intermittency issue. The other challenge that we have seen is the availability of transmission infrastructure. Now in India, the way transmission is institutionalized is that you have state owned transmission also, and the interstate also. While the interstate is quite strong, the challenge still remains at the state level. Most of the states are still trying to get their systems ready for a higher proportion of renewable. It is not only a digital aspect, but also to make the corridors in areas within the state which have higher state potential that can be evacuated easily. Now, the other impact that we have seen over the years is with dedicated transmission system for renewable, the per unit transmission cost of the overall system is increasing because we see that those networks are not being used 24/7. They are only used for a certain period of the time when the connected renewable capacities are available. So that is something which again is a constraint. Yes, the cybersecurity risks are there for the entire grid, but with RE, the problem is that there is a lot more renewable IT-related operations, especially when you talk about O&M and all. So that constraint is still there. The grid congestion and the storage gap, I've already mentioned from a transmission perspective. But yes, overall, if you see, the more storage we have, the more easier it would be to manage overall the renewable infusion. This was again, the investment point was discussed in the earlier presentation. See, we have achieved a very strong share of installed capacity, but the share in the electricity consumption is still to be reached to that level where we want. Having the capacity doesn't mean that we are using the entire capacity. Any renewable or wind, the PLF is almost near to 20, 22, 23%. We also mean that to maximize the usage from such capacity, it is important that we have the necessary systems to extract and use for storage and all, which doesn't mean only the hardware infrastructure, but the softwares and the AI tools, everything. So the investment requirement is very, very significant. While we have a very strong private infusion in the country, but still the investment requirements are huge. So, and the last thing, we all know that the supply chain, especially for solar, is very, very concentrated, with China owning almost more than 90% of major parts of the supply chain. So how do we address or find ways to ease this issue is again a bigger challenge. So the drivers, again, we have discussed a number of things, but yes, the costs have been declining, whether it is the simple solar PV or even for the storage components. The as advancement in technology means, and if you can see, we produce a report called MIT report for International Solar Alliance. Those reports are available free download on the website. So one major thing that in the last report, which was launched in October, what we have seen is that apart from, because of the technological advancement, the amount of electricity that is now getting produced from a single wafer or a single panel is rising year on year. So which means for the same installed capacity, with the latest technologies, we can extract more electricity. So that is a very big thing, and this is still continuing. And then obviously we are having a new consumer category, and in the recent budget also we have seen that data center is going to be a major energy guzzler in the future. Now the biggest thing about data centers is that these are base loads. They work 24/7, which means while they would be trying to strive for clean energy for their operations, but how do we manage this is again a major thing. So one of the things that we are seeing is a lot of states are trying to find spaces near the generating plants which are thermal to give these data centers to be there, because when the thermals back down because of high renewable capacity, that electricity which is surplus and back down can be supplied to these. So this is something which we are seeing as the future, and how the nexus between data center and generation is going to pan out, we'll have to see that. Finally, some critical sectors, we all know clean energy transition is essential. Interestingly, I was in Belém for the COP, and before that in Azerbaijan, also in the previous COP. What I saw is that there is a lot of intent from every country that clean energy has to happen. How do we make that happen means that for each country or each region or each state, there would be certain criticalities or certain success factors that they have to keep in mind, whether it is policy or it is operation. So we've just tried to compile basis our understanding for the global fraternity. First thing is that at a policy level, how do we make sure that it's a seamless opportunity to get as much private sector participation in the capacity additions? That is one. Then the infrastructure, as we mentioned, there has to be long-term plans for the transmission infrastructure, which has to be in tandem with the demand as well as the supply thing. So, for example, in India, the resource adequacy planning policy that the CA has come out for every state, every DISCOM, that is critical to be taken up seriously by all states, and then basis that the transmission network should need to be planned. Only then you'll see a lot of investment flowing up as per plans going forward. Then financing is again a critical thing. How do we get that? Especially now we are seeing that like if we are looking at extracting the ocean energy, the investment would be much higher than what we are seeing on ground, solar or wind. So how do we get those financing getting set up? The one sun, one world, one grid thing means getting electricity, renewable electricity from different countries to us or vice versa. They require significant investment. How that happens and how do we get the private guys to ensure a risk-free investment is very, very critical, and returns. Then manufacturing, again, strengthening the domestic manufacturing. There has been a lot of PLI schemes. We have seen a very fast growth of domestic manufacturing. But again, how can this be sustained and made sure that we become one of the options for other countries so that this domestic supply chain becomes more and more expanded and strengthened is critical for a long-term clean energy future. And finally, as I mentioned, while electricity or power sector itself has a major carbon footprint, but there are other sectors who need to come into the foray. And those sectors need to be working at tandem to ensure that they have a cleaner future or cleaner product that we are doing it. We have already seen how Europe is putting this CBAM for getting or targeting the import duties vis-a-vis the carbon footprint of the product that is going to be imported. We are going to see this more in the future. So it's better that especially industries, different sectors also come into the foray wholeheartedly. With this, I think I'll conclude and give my best wishes to this event and our future panelists during the day. All the best. Thank you very much.